Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, my precious pack, and welcome back once more to VEGA Conflict. Let's go ahead and let's do a quick once-over of the Decimation store before it closes in 7 hours. And by the way, yet again, I'm up extremely late. Should be in bed, but sleeping schedule's gone out the window so many times that it's just natural for me to just do stupid things to my sleeping schedule at this point. So, let's go ahead and let's quickly go over it all. Ronan Gabriel, right off the bat. Can I recommend picking him up? Not really if you have Tatiana Demina, but if you do not have her, pick him up because he's better than nothing. Well, unless you're using primarily energy weapons, in which case, Burr would be the better bet. So, he's only recommendable in a certain degree, or a certain number of situations, and not as many as the other fleet commanders. Ambush for the fleet formation. Again, that's situational. It all depends on the situation, so pick it up if you can think of a possible use for it. Operator, I recommend picking up each of the fragments if possible. Valraven, same. Inhibitor, since phasing 2.0, you have to do hit and run to take no damage unless you want to just tank. Well, Inhibitor is going to be one of the go-to ships along with the Dreadnought and the Trojan because they get in, they get out, they get the job done. So, it's on the recommendations list as well, despite the fact that it turns slower than a freaking tub. Recommend picking up the pre-built hull just because you can utilize it to help you advance a little bit more easily, provided you got the points for it. Plexus Carrier, still haven't found much of a use for it, and even now I still don't really use it because I farmed for the Dreadnoughts, and well, Plexus Carrier, Segfault. Plexus Carrier, Segfault. I'm going Segfault. Javelin, I can recommend picking it up because it's going to be your first jump ship and it will be a great addition for you. Wormhole Drive, Deep Space One. I can recommend picking it up, but it all depends on exactly how you're going to be using it. If it's your first jump ship and you're just getting barely used to them and things like that, or you want the introduction to them, well, I can recommend it, but I can also recommend the Blitz Drive even more. Because it has, let's see here, cooldown 20 seconds, so it jumps fairly quickly in comparison, but the Wormhole Drive has the shorter warm-up time, giving it less a chance for you to be jumped as long as you're quick with what you're doing. Then you got the Wormhole Drive itself for the 10 seconds, and with a 20-second cooldown, so it allows you to jump more frequently. However, you have to have a minimum of level 70 or above fleets. Okay, crafting boxes, I've talked about them enough. If it's a carrier, you're going to need 10 boxes. If it's anything else, you're going to need 5 per one. Tick cannon credits, pick them up because you can use them to help reduce refit times, build times, things like that. Plasma screens and node armors all the same. Xeno Zealots, I recommend picking up all 3 of them if possible because you're going to want them with your Orator. They will go hand in hand in most cases with the Orator, and you should have very few issues, if any, when farming using them. Just because they're a spawn ship, they go out, they die, they take damage for you. Blightmers 1 through 3. The Blightmers, it all depends on exactly what type of Aeroco fitting you're going for. But just like with the Zealots, they can step out in front and tank a few hits for you and then drop like a fly. Binary Torpedo 1 through 3, I can recommend picking it up because it is yet another item that you'll be using with Pharmacon. And in the case of hit and run tactics, well, it hits pretty decently at the close ranges. You'll be able to engage with it before you bail. Plasma screens, I can recommend picking them up, so if you're fighting Pharmacon versus Pharmacon, it'll help you out when you're in phase. You need to force the AI out of phase to desync them from your sync, so it's a little bit more, you get the hits in while you're in phase and you're safe. Xeno Resonant Armor. I can recommend picking it up, especially if you're going to be fighting against something such as Altarian targets using the Altarians. Blight Siphon Resistor. I can recommend picking it up, even though I haven't actually used any of them. But since the phase screen drain is increased, you can actually counter that with the phase drain buffer, which you can then... No. Phase drain buffer? I can't even remember what one it is. That's how tired I am. Okay, Alien Resistor, Disruptor. No. Because of the weight. Just like every other time. Alien Echo Resistor, the Alien Pierce, and the Stasis. I can recommend picking all three of them up because they can be situational and will be utilized depending on what you're doing. The Dissipators. I can recommend picking up the Blight and the Explosive because the go-to for most fights that I've seen is either Blight damage or Explosive damage. Or in the case of AI fights, it's going to be Kinetic or Plasma for the events lately. Well, that's for the stuff that actually gets to take a shot at you. Nightingale Wings. That's a bit of an iffy one because, again, their wings, they die in the blink of an eye. You literally... Sometimes you don't even have to blink to see them die. Epsilon turrets, no. Xenopsi turrets, no. Basically, the turrets that they have are a big no-go because in comparison to the ship's equivalent, they fall a bit short because they're going to miss more often than not. And unlike the Xeno Epsilon that actually does have tracking, however, its range is what lets it down, as well as its rather mediocre DPS. And the fact that most of the DPS comes from the chaining damage, which can be completely negated by a single Wraith. The Elements. I can recommend picking up a few of them if you do not have time to farm for them, especially the Spectronics, the Pyrochemistry, and the Gravimetrics. Because you can farm for the Xeno, the Plasma, and the Blight after you've completed your Dreadnought grinds, because as you complete the grinds, they start opening up and you can farm them for the matching resource. You can farm the Orator targets for Xeno element, you can farm the Plasma element from the Segvault targets, and then finally you can farm Blight from the Overseers. As well as a few in-sector fleets, if I remember correctly. Don't mind me as I yawn and try to keep my eyes open. Alright. Finally, we have the prize boxes, resources, and things like that. I can recommend picking up the gold prize boxes and the silver prize boxes, even before anything else on the list. Just because they have credit items and pre-built ships, which you can utilize immediately. As for the credits, well, that depends on exactly what you're doing. In this case, you're going to want the build tokens and the refits if you're a lower level player, and you can use a cheap tactic to farm for some points. And then resources if you need them. And finally, the little fleet that I quickly whipped together with the tokens and things like that. What exactly is it going to be good for? Well, it's going to be a 12-hour throwaway fleet, essentially. With the exception of you're not going to really throw it away, you're going to try and utilize it to advance. So this is kind of what it'll look like, but I still haven't fully fitted them because I can still fit 2 more guns on the level 1s without having to put too much more effort into them. But, showing that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave it here, and I'm going to get some sleep, and then I'm going to take care of the revamp video for the armors involving the Overseer target videos. But that's it, everybody. Done chatting your ear off. Go ahead and just do whatever you do now. I'm gonna get some rest. So, be safe from the void, happy hunting, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.